This is the Leader Lift podcast, taking your leadership from one peak to the next. This podcast is for you, the leader, no matter what stage your leadership is at.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Leader Lift podcast. I'm Mikekai, your host. Join me as I drop leadership tips and have insightful conversations with leaders from around the world. I'm so glad that you joined me today. Take a moment and subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. Now, let's jump into this week's episode and take your leadership to the next peak.
Welcome to the Leader Lift podcast. I'm Clint, and with me today, I've got a bunch of our staff, and we are going to dive in with our senior pastor, the mastermind behind the Leader Lift podcast, Pastor Mikekai. He's an author. He's a global influencer. He is a man. He is not a myth, but he's definitely a living legend. And it is our honor today to have on his podcast, Pastor Mikekai. Welcome to your Leader Lift podcast.
Thank you, Clint. Thanks, guys. It's good to see everybody all in one place with COVID. Everybody's spread out, either a few in the office or most people at home. But I want to thank you guys for your time. It's good to see everybody.
I mean, you look fantastic. You look fit. You look very healthy. I mean, that shirt is looking mad awesome on you. So what I'm curious about is what is your physical fitness regimen to kind of keep yourself, energetic and active, especially during this season?
Well, number one, the first thing is there's no basketball. So that's been really, really difficult because basketball was that was my release, that emotional, because I don't think about anything when you're playing basketball. You cannot think about anything. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you can't play basketball and think of other things. I've been golfing a little bit more, but golf, that phone in 4.5 hours will always go off and you got to take the phone call sometimes. The only thing that's been keeping me going is actually having all these collected pieces over the years. So, I never had the money to go ahead and buy a big gym stuff. I've been blessed with stuff. People gave me things. I've bought things over the years, collected pieces to where it's a decent place, but all you really need is dumbbells. At the end of the day, if you got dumbbells, it's really all you need. And you don't even need that. If you're desperate enough, you'll do push-ups and sit-ups at the end of the day, and you'll do dips on your chair. That's all you really need. But I would say maybe 3 times a week, maybe 4 times a week. And I go in there not motivated. I'm just telling you, when I go into my garage, I'm not motivated. I got to turn on music. I got to text my brother. My brother texts me back something strong and nasty to get me to go, get your butt off the chair, something like that. It's not nasty, but something like that. Or I'll watch a workout video of somebody else working out, another guy. And then I'll just go like, okay, all right, I'm getting it going. And then I go in. And then lately Karis has been wanting me to help her train. So if she's going to do it, I have to do it too. So I'm doing ladder, that ladder stuff, ladder drills, or I'm doing jump boxes. She's doing jump boxes. I don't want to just be the coach telling her what to do, right? You see all those videos with the guys who don't look like they're even in shape, but they're coaching everybody else. Not me. I got to do it with her. And so that means that I'm kind of getting into it. So I've been doing a lot of stuff around the house, planting taro, sweet potato, and hauling dirt and unloading dirt and then moving dirt. And so that's been kind of just getting me going. And that's the stuff that takes my mind off of work or I work at the same time. So it's pretty good.
Being on your team for so many years, I've seen many risks that you've taken as a leader, as a father, as just a visionary for Inspire Church. What would you say is the most important risk that you took and why?
I'd say the biggest risk we took was really thinking we could get Waikele, the shopping center, because the shopping center, Waikele location opened up everything. It opened up opportunities for more team staff, more people to reach. Definitely, the building changed everything. We already had the talent for the building. We already maximized everything that we were doing in the elementary school. We were taking what little we had and maximizing and making the most of it. And we leveraged that to what we have today. And so the biggest challenge of 2 things. Number one, your biggest risk can also turn into your biggest liability. So what I mean was the biggest risk that we took was going after a building that we had no business going after, but God knew that this is what we needed. And then it could be your liability because I kept telling everybody, this is not it. Now, don't get comfortable. This is not it. Here's not there. We're not there yet. And that's where plateaus came out of, because I was worried and concerned that once we got into the building, that people would get comfortable and people would get complacent because, oh, this is a nice building. We're doing better than most churches in Hawaii. But we were not comparing ourselves to anybody else, and definitely not anybody in Hawaii. So it wasn't something that was all about, this is good enough. And I was concerned about the good enough. So I was already looking. One thing I also learned is I've heard from Pastor Phil Pringle, who told Jurgen this. And one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people fail, especially pastors in their middle age, is because they stop building. Wow. And when you stop building, that's when you've got to look out for the attack of the enemy and how he plants things. Because David stopped building, David stopped going to war. And because he stopped going to war, that's when his weakness came, and it was exposed even more than ever before. And that's why, because it took so long to build buildings, I started building other things. Well, let's build another network. Let's build another network on top of a network. And let's build new business models. And let's build that business and all these different things, because you can't stop building and you can't stop. Of course, you got to be able to have the infrastructure and you got to be able to have sustainability and all of those things. But if you don't have the structure and the sustainability, then those are going to fall apart. But so you don't just want to build haphazardly and not be able to sustain what you already have. You need sustainability. So I'd say that the biggest gamble that we took and the biggest faith step that we took actually was Waikele. And then after that, it was watching off our greatest liability, which would be to get complacent. So we got to keep on building.
Having the great opportunity of being with you for over 15 years and seeing your leadership grow, and grow. What is that one piece of advice that you've always carried with yourself when it comes to your leadership journey?
The speed of the team is the speed of the leader. If the leader stops growing, the team stops growing. If the leader stops caring, the team stops caring. If the leader is not leading without vision, the people perish or they run amok. In other words, there's a part of me that believes that if I'm on it and I'm on it, then you're on it. And then a part of me goes, if I step back, I want to see how on it they are. But if I see that they're not on it, I step back in. It comes down to am I able to lead myself? Number one. Then can I lead others? Then can I lead up? And because everybody thinks they can lead down. But can I lead myself? Can I lead others? And then can I lead down? But can I also lead up? The whole journey on leadership is always becoming a better leader. So my leadership style compared to where I was when we first started in 2001 has changed. It was a different era. It was a different crew. I would say the older crew had thicker skin, but at the same time, it kind of didn't. I had to realize that the coaching style of back in the 90s and the 2000s is not going to work for the 2020s. But at the same time, you still need people who can lead up to your level. And so it's been a change in my approach. And I find myself going back to the old way sometimes because I feel like the new way is not working. Because I feel like if I'm the new way, I'm giving too much room for a lack of communication. So I go back to the old way because the old way got stuff done. And so it's kind of a bounce between the old way and the new school and the old school. And it's trying to find something that works for each person that you're trying to lead individually. Does that work for them? Because before, when I came out of I came out of an era that's one size fit all. You approached everybody the same way. Maybe you can do that in a group setting, but on an individual setting, you cannot do that the same way. You have to, certain people have different Enneagrams, right? So their Enneagram, they're going to relate to a certain level. I don't even know what my Enneagram is anyway, but apparently you guys all do. So I don't even know what mine is. But all I know is this, and sometimes some leadership styles, they don't work. And some leadership styles do work.
Mike, I want to go back to something key you just said that gave me great visual. You said speed of a team is a speed of a leader. And I've met leaders who thought, man, I can't wait to get promoted because, I can rest. Would you be able to share a little bit more on why a complacent leader is probably a leader that is about to exit?
So the speed of the leader dictates the speed of the team. So complacency, there's nothing wrong with rest, but complacency is a whole different level. Complacency is, I'm not motivated. You're going to have to motivate me. I need external motivation rather than internal conviction. If you don't have internal conviction and you always need external motivation, and external motivation could be, come on, you can do it, or you better do it. It's either one, right? Pick your poison. You can do it, or you better do it. And it's almost like if you need that external motivation too often, then probably there's something that we have to go look at. Maybe it's something that leader has to go look at about themselves. Or why do I always need external motivation? Why is it not in me? Why is that passion not in me? What is it? They have to go look at that. And then, of course, it dictates that for me, if I'm losing my internal motivation, I'm going to know not in a month and then everybody's going to notice. It's not going to be 3 months. It's not going to even get to a month. It's going to get to a week or less. And I'm going to know it already that why am I not motivated? I got to get back on my knees. I got to get back to why I said yes in the first place. I got to go back to all of these people that we need to reach for Jesus. And there is not enough motivation for you to get it done. And you shouldn't be doing this. So Jesus said, look up, the fields are ripe unto harvest. They are white and they are ripe. And if that does not motivate you enough, then maybe full-time ministry is not for that person, whoever that is. And even for senior pastors, if all you want is to slow it down and everybody does all your work for you, no way. My problem is I probably work too much. My problem is you're getting emails at 11 p.m. and a text message by 9 p.m. at the latest. And I'm already looking, me and Lisa, our brains are always going. And I'm telling her, don't send a text. It's too late. Now they're all going to reply. And then we kind of disturb them. Now it's going to come to us too. So let's not text everybody this late. And it's, I would love to say that we can shut it off, but we don't shut it off enough because we've got this internal conviction of what God gave us, and we're not going to get complacent. We're going to keep on moving. Now, for you guys, that could be a different story. I don't want you up at 11 o'clock working and feeling the pressure to answer that email. I don't want that. I want you to wake up and when you wake up to do your devotions, and at 8:39, you are switched on. You're ready to answer a text. You're already going to have been formulating some things. I don't want you guys not being able to shut it off. That's why I am who I am. That's why I am the leader. That's why I am what I do. And I have to learn to shut it off. But that's my problem. It's not yours.
One of the main things that I've always taken away at my time at Inspire is that you call us Swiss Army knives, that we want to be Swiss Army knives. So for someone that's not a part of our staff kind of taking a look in, can you define for somebody what that is, what that looks like for you and how you use it in your leadership?
Everybody who's on this call got their foot in the door. Never have I ever heard verbally spoken out. I didn't sign up for that. The last time somebody said that was about 5 years ago, and they're no longer with us. I didn't sign up for that. The problem is when the challenge is and the blessing is not a problem, but actually the challenge and the blessing is when you get in the door, you just never know what God's going to do. I mean, if someone said, I didn't sign up for that, then bye-bye during COVID season, because you would not be employed during COVID season, because in COVID season, we had an A, B, and C, or a 1, 2, 3. This is DEFCON 1, DEFCON 2, DEFCON 3. And DEFCON 2 would have been pulled. We would have had to have done that. But because God has been gracious to us and we've been good, we've been able to tell somebody, we need you here. And then you become that other person, that type of person that says, I'm willing to do whatever you want me to do. I'll play whatever role you need me to play in order to move the mission of Inspire Church forward, to reach more people for the Lord and to keep yourself employed at the same time. I'm willing to open up another area that I never thought I had in order to do that. And so what you're seeing is people who have had to shift and adjust to different roles. That makes you a Swiss Army knife. Now, I also want to make sure that there's going to be people who are specialists, and those kinds of people are going to be accountants, right? We don't want the maintenance guy doing accounting. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying it's going to take forever. They might get it right, but it's going to take forever. We need numbers like that. We need counts. We need scoreboard right away. So there are going to be specialists, and people who have a specialty. But at Inspire, nobody wears one hat. Nobody does. We're all wearing 2 or 3 different hats because that's what we do. And it keeps us sharp, and it keeps everybody on the same page and being able to keep everybody on the team. But if you go to one job, one person, that ship has sailed in the 80s and the 90s. It's never going to happen again.
At the highest levels of leadership, the biggest issue or area of stewardship is time. You've learned how to balance it. You've had to change your rhythm. What are your non-negotiables that you will not compromise in your time?
The easiest one to compromise is your time with God. I cannot let the rest of the day go on without using my time with God. So for instance, my normal routine is up at 6:15, making my coffee, come downstairs. My friend James from Ali invested in me and gave me these great beans and everything. I just don't have time that morning to wait. I need coffee and I need it now. I need water and I need coffee. I need to get hydrated and I need to stay awake. And then after that, I find my daily Bible. I grab my daily Bible and I need to sit inside the house or sit outside and I'll read my Bible. And I'm just going to stick to that. And if the Lord gives me revelation off of what I'm reading, great. If I got nothing out of it because I was going through something like the boring parts of Jeremiah, through that week, or the boring parts of Ezekiel, which is what I'm in right now, then I'll go to Proverbs and I'll go straight to Proverbs and I'll just go read a proverb and I'll highlight. But today, because it was Karis's birthday, I had to be up at 6:15 and go straight to Safeway, because so then I go to Safeway, I can come home with the balloons. And from the balloons, I had another call. From the call, I'm here. So I didn't get my time with the Lord. That's a non-negotiable that I'm about to let slip away today. And I'm going to regret it. And I don't want to regret it. That's my non-negotiable. My non-negotiable that's the number one non-negotiable. After that, everything else is fluid. I got to do better at time management. Honestly, have to do better at time management. But it's fitting in the big rocks. And then after that, everything else tries to fall into place. I only have room in my week for 3 or 4 meetings on the side that are in addition to what we already do. I only have 3 to 4, and I only have 30 minutes now. My meetings are only 30 minutes, and a phone call, a Zoom, makes it easier to keep it to 30 minutes. But when you meet with somebody face to face, that's going to be a 45-minute to an hour meeting. And honestly, I try to avoid having 45-minute to 1 hour meetings unless they're with other leaders or pastors, or it's a lunch and you can't deviate from that. So my whole goal is 30 minutes or less. Let's get down to it. Let me see how I can help. How can I add value? How can I build you up? And how can we move on and get to the next task?
I wanted to ask you about culture, Pastor Mike, because that was something that actually drew me to your leadership and to Inspire Church at first, was the health of the culture. And something that you talk about in the Pound for Pound book, by the way, I think is a necessary resource for every leader.
Thank you, Chelsea.
You say you either create the kind of culture you want, or by default, it will be created for you. And you talk about a winning culture. So how does a leader create that kind of winning culture? And what do they do if they recognize that they don't have it? What are some ways that they can get that kind of winning culture back?
You're either going to enter into a culture that has already been created. And Inspire, the culture is already created. So if you're a new staff member, a new leader, you're coming on board, you realize they already have a culture, but you want the culture to be defined for you. So that's why we have a culture statement. Then you have to have everybody uphold the culture and live according to the culture and operate that way. Otherwise, the culture just becomes a piece of paper that nobody respects. And then when that culture doesn't get respected, then the leadership doesn't get respected. Then you have to curate the culture. And when I say curate, to curate is not to hold as holy, but to actually sift through, as the leadership has to sift through it. That would be everybody's responsibility, but especially mine and Lisa's responsibility of making sure that, does that fit? Is it applicable? Is there enough room with it? Can you wiggle through it? Is it hard and fast and rigid, or does it actually work for us, or are we working towards serving that? So when you begin to see that the culture that you're walking into is already there, then you live according to the culture. So like for Dominic's been in the Navy for 20 something years. The Navy has already been established as their culture, and he came fitting into a culture that is already created. Now for us, that culture wasn't created. It was already here when I got here, and that culture existed. And even though they may not have had a cultural statement, they lived according to the unspoken rules of what their culture was. So even though I didn't know what really culture was, and I read a book by Robert Lewis at the beginning about culture, he wrote it with Wayne Cordero. it just was foreign to me. I didn't get it. But then I began to be involved in circles of leadership that I am to this day that started to tell us this is what culture is. And so from there, we started to define what we wanted, what we didn't want. And it was able to distill it to something that was more meaningful, that fit us and fit Inspire, fit Hawaii, and something that served us rather than we served. The culture has to serve you rather than you're serving the culture. Because once you start serving the culture, then your heart's not in it. So it has to serve us to our advantage. So it works for all of us collectively together, not just me and not just the Kais, not just the executive team, but it has to serve everybody and serve us well.
In your 19 years as being the senior pastor of Inspire Church, I can imagine that your vision for the direction that the church is going has either changed, it has expanded, or basically as you've gone down the road of the vision, you've now seen new things that kind of said, oh, I didn't know this was going to be part of the vision, but now I have to get myself aligned with it. Now, you as a leader, you're able to kind of adjust that, but how do you get your team to align with that new vision? How do you get your team out of well, we've always done it this way, why are we doing it differently? Or, hey, we're used to this, but now you want us to do this. We're not comfortable. How do you get your team to align with the vision that God has given you so you can now go forward and bring that vision to fruition?
I think the most important thing about vision is vision has been added onto. So basically the vision has never changed. The vision is to reach as many people, to make disciples, multiply leaders. That's the vision. That's the purpose of how we're going to get there. Where we're going to go is we're going to reach thousands of people for Christ. We're going to become a church that is global. We're going to be a church that reaches more people than any other church in Hawaii has ever reached. It's how you get there. But what's interesting, Dominic, is more things have been added onto that vision that I ever expected. I never expected networks, and in the COVID season, nobody saw this. So COVID changed everything. So for everybody to get on board and buy into the vision, I think there's a couple of things. And number one is we all have to, or we're sunk. We all have to buy into this vision during COVID or we're sunk. So now what's happened is God's given Inspire an incredible digital platform opportunity that we never saw before. So pre-COVID, it was fill buildings, reach more people than ever before, disciple as many as you can, right? Pre-COVID, get them in the building, reach as many people as you can, disciple as many people as you can, okay? And where's the next building? What are we buying? Let's reevaluate this vision again. Because everybody that I'm talking to, you can talk to whoever we want, right? You can talk to the camp that says, it's all coming back. It's all coming back. In Jesus' name, it's all coming back. Yeah, I'm believing that too. But I'm listening to guys who are saying, it's not coming back. Why are you putting all your eggs in that basket? It probably is not going to look like that. I hate to say it. It's not going to look like that. So it's making me even evaluate, what does property look like? How important is property? And if you get property, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to fund it? Is it going to be the traditional tithes and offerings? Or is it going to have to run businesses out of that? Does it change your business model? And so it's sharing with everybody along the journey who might have more questions. And I think I have to do a better job at that as well. So being gone for 6 weeks and trying to get a vacation, you don't have the communication lines open like before, and bringing back everybody back to zero. This is why we're doing what we're doing. And this is what the opportunities we're going to go after. Are you still on board? Still want to be here? Thank you. Let's go do it then. Let's go do it. You ready to find out if you got a spoon in that Swiss Army knife? We definitely know we got toothpicks in that thing. Do you want to make sure that you got a scissors in there too? And if you want that, let's go. But if you're having a hard time, it's okay. It's okay. Everybody's shifting during COVID. It's a good time to shift. I want to be a church that exists and adapts to the next 5 years. What does that look like? And it is a hybrid of what we've got going on right now. Do I expect more people back in the building? Yeah, but not more than 50%. Not more than 50%. What is our future? Our future is digital. It is digital.
Yeah. Well, they say that night is 2020, but I've seen the last 5 months you've been having conversations to pivot, conversations and making decisions, almost as if you could see into the future. You have phenomenal forecasting skills, and foresight is something I believe that makes you a phenomenal leader. And so if you could give yourself 20 seconds into the future, an opportunity to call the future, your future self, what would you tell yourself?
Don't get discouraged. Just keep moving forward. Stay encouraged. Do whatever you can to encourage yourself in the Lord. Keep your focus. Keep humble. Keep strong. Keep hungry. Get that holy hustle. Go for the opportunities that God gives you. Look at the bigger picture. Don't be so sensitive. Don't get hurt by the haters who are going to hate. The dogs bark, but the caravan keeps moving on. The caravan never stops because dogs start barking. Keep on moving forward. Look at the whole team. Lift the whole team. Lift up your eyes. The fields are ripe unto harvest. Jesus has called you guys for such a time as this. He could have put you in the 90s. He could have put you in the 20s. Here and now is your moment. This is the church's moment. Go for it. Build people, make disciples, multiply leaders, expand the platform more than ever before. Don't sleep on this. Stay awake. Stay strong. Just move forward. Don't get discouraged. Stay encouraged. Encourage everybody in the process and in the journey. And come up for air.
Well, hey, everyone, there you have it. The one and only Pastor Mike Kai. He's our senior pastor. He's an author. He's a global leader, a global influencer, an entrepreneur. You can pick up his latest book, the 10th anniversary edition of the Pound for Pound Principle. Go to mikekai.tv. But it has been a pleasure and an honor to have him on his podcast. But we had the privilege of interviewing him today. Some amazing leadership insights. Thank you once again for joining us here at the Leader Lift podcast with Pastor Mike Kai.
Thanks, Clint. We have the best team in the country and in the world.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us on this week's Leader Lift podcast. Now don't forget to hit subscribe to receive the latest episodes. And I would love for you to follow me on Instagram at mikekai and let me know what you got out of this week's podcast. I'll see you next week on the next Leader Lift podcast, where we're helping to take your leadership from one peak to the next. Aloha.